Steve Gilbert, who covers the Diamondbacks on MLB.com. Corbin Carroll removed from today's game against the Rangers with lower back tightness.
Oh, that's that Arizona hard ground doing that to his back.
Well, let's talk to the author of the X message himself. Steve Gilbert joins us on the Monday Stove. Gilly, good morning. What's the latest on Corbin Carroll's back?
Yeah, Matt, Harold, we talked to him after he left that game and got some treatment. He said, he varied his routine. They had to go out to Surprise, which is about 50 miles away. So he doesn't usually lifts after a game, but knew that he wouldn't have access to the weights in Surprise. So he lifted before the game. He thinks that may have contributed a little bit to it, but he wasn't overly concerned. It was just a little tightness. He's going to take today off. They have an off day tomorrow, and then they'll see how he is on Wednesday. But he was neither he nor Torey Lovullo seemed very concerned about it.
What was the key to keeping guys healthy? Oh, gosh.
Oh, you didn't fall for the soundboard,
No.
Gilly.
Nice job, Gilly.
No, I was a little confused there at first, but then I realized it was you running the soundboard. Right?
You're good.
Great job. Great
Can't
job.
get anything past
That's all
this
I got
guy.
to say. Hey, Corbin's really been hot. We'll throw the injury aside because he will bounce back. What is he doing different? Last year he had a little slow start and started really turning around. What's he doing different this spring?
He's got a little bit of a different setup at the plate. I have no idea if that actually is why he's having a great spring, but he's holding his hands a little different.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, his bat's not angled down as much as it used to be. So, it's helping him in his load. He can give you a real technical explanation for it that I probably can't even remember and explain. But whatever it is, it's working. He came into this year without any spring homers. He's hit, I believe, 3 this spring, and he's really hitting the ball hard. So, again, he's a guy they weren't worried about even after the slow start last year. He really picked it up in the second half, and they're confident that that's still the Corbin Carroll they're going to see this year.
Looks like a left-handed Mookie Betts up there with the hands up there around the helmet.
Yeah.
Like the way that looked. Hey, one of the big stories that we've talked about here regarding the Diamondbacks in camp is this opening day starter decision that Torey Lovullo is faced with. It's not a question for Harold at all, who's been very firm that it needs to be Corbin Burnes. What's the latest on that discussion internally?
Yeah, it's funny. Torey was saying as soon as Mike Hazen called him to tell him that the deal was done, there was a moment of elation for him, and then he was like, "Oh boy, I got a real tough decision when it comes to opening day starter between Corbin Burnes and Zach Gallen." If you do the math right now, Zach Gallen lines up to start opening day, but Torey keeps telling us that there's off days, there's things we can do this spring to kind of juggle that around, and he hasn't made a decision yet. Neither guy seems to be overly concerned about it when you talk to them. And Torey says it's going to be more a tough decision for him and harder on him than it's going to be on whichever guy doesn't get that opening day start. I guess you're trying to balance, Zach Gallen, what he's done for the team over the last 5 or 6 years versus the fact that you're going to have Corbin Burnes for the next 6 years based on that free agent contract.
Interesting.
Wow.
I don't think there's a wrong answer either way, but Harold's firm on.
I don't even think it's a debate.
Let me ask you about the rest of the rotation.
Go ahead, Gilly. You had something else to say real quick.
I was going to say, I told Torey he should just surprise us all and name Merrill Kelly the opening day starter.
Exactly. That might sell it all.
Yeah.
And speaking of Merrill Kelly, the rotation. Rodriguez is back throwing now. What's up with Montgomery? I got a lot of questions for them. Nelson, how's everybody looking, and where are they falling on things?
Well, that's you got it right there. 7 guys for 5 spots, and it looks like the first 4 are pretty much locked in there. So it's really 3 for that final spot. Jordan Montgomery, obviously, signed to the free agent contract just after the season started last year. Really struggled. Exercised his player option for $22.5 million this year. He reported to camp he looks about 25 pounds. He said he's lost during the offseason. He looks good, but he's been bothered by a flexor strain in his index finger on his left hand. So he hasn't appeared in a game yet, but he's been throwing bullpens and should appear in a game here within the next week or so, which still puts him on track for being ready for the start of the season. But he's got to win a spot. And Brandon Pfaadt is a guy who they've relied on for the past 2 years. Ryan Nelson's a guy who was arguably their best starter in August and September last year. So Torey's got a tough decision, not just for the opening day starter, but who's going to, be their 5th starter in that rotation. It's a good problem to have, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all sorts out. And do they move one of them to the bullpen? If one of them or 2 of them to the bullpen, depending on who wins the spot.
As far as the lineup is concerned, Steve, not exactly a hot take, but this team's going to hit some homers this year. Eugenio Suarez hit a monster shot Saturday, and Josh Naylor's going to be a pretty good fit there. Talk about Naylor and what the discussion is around him and the expectations this year.
Yeah, he's replacing Christian Walker over there at first base, and Walker was not just a big part of their lineup and a big part of what they did on the field, but off the field as well as a leader. And the reports that the front office got on Naylor is that he's a great clubhouse guy and that he can kind of fill that role as well. And so far, he seems to really be meshing well with his teammates. He's the guy in charge of the music in the clubhouse that we've seen so far this spring. But he's a guy that brings a power bat. And they're excited about what he has from a left-handed side.
Steve, we appreciate the update on the Diamondbacks. We'll tap into you again on this one, I'm sure, before the spring is over with, and enjoy the rest of camp.
Sounds good. I'll let Tori know that Harold's got his opening day starter picked up.
No problem. And I got Montgomery's $22 million as a spot as well. I'm just saying.
Steve Gilbert from MLB.com. You can read Steve's work on MLB.com.